All right. Well, we are now back on FOX59 tonight. Having some technical difficulties here in the studio, so to make things a little more complicated, the camera's right here, but I moved the show to a computer over here, so I have one more thing to now look at while we have this conversation. So maybe I'll just leave it up in this little box so we don't have as many technical difficulties, hopefully, for the rest of the show. Before we were rudely interrupted by that technical glitch, we were talking about can you still not see? Is
Mm.
yours down over there?
Mm.
Is black?
No, it's like a computer screen.
It's a computer screen. Yes, because I moved the show to the other screen.
We're
So
good.
yeah, lots of fun. So yeah, it's great in here. It's great. What I was saying before break is what if we took you take the kids over to the community justice complex, and that is home of uh, the courthouse, the jail, the juvenile center, and now the coroner's office. And you get these parents to come down here and you say, call your parents, call somebody to come get you so we can find out why somebody let you be down here on the streets of Indianapolis at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, so we could put face on them. And it could be as simple as saying, hey, mom, did you know that your child is not allowed to be downtown at 1:45 in the morning? And you'll get everything from, oh, no, I didn't know, or I was in bed, he snuck out, or I was at work, he's supposed to be at the house. It's going to be a whole range of things. And some of that is kids being kids. But some of it, when we talk about resources and root causes, you'll never find out unless you meet face to face with the people that you want to talk to. And so in that process, you say, okay, look, we're going to, son's name is Greg. So we're going to put Greg here in this database. And Greg, you go to Pike High School and we got all your information. And mom, I got your information. So if we see Greg back down here next weekend, we know one, exactly what your phone number is, where Greg lives, what school you go to, so we could follow up. This is not, and we're not locking Greg up. And this is not we're not trying to put penalties necessarily on parents every time because everybody has a story, but it is about starting a conversation about why is this kid down here?
Mm.
And so when I asked all that to the mayor, they're like, well, that's something that we are looking toward doing. But to do all of what I said, first is going to take manpower. What's the first thing that we heard from city officials? Not enough officers to do all this.
Yep.
Not enough capacity at the juvenile center to hold these kids.
Yep.
But now this is where I'm going to let y'all go in, because what I also said in that mix is you have all these community organizations that, let's be real, on the 4th of July, everybody should be with their families. You shouldn't have to have these people down here to monitor somebody else's kids.
Sure.
You shouldn't have to go to these links. But that is where we are now with what's going on. So bring the community organizations into the fold and say, hey, Friday, Saturday night, we need y'all downtown. Not and the other, and I'm specifically saying downtown because other people are saying, well, what if we held a lock-in at our place and we did all these other things? You could do all that, but the problem, again, we know who it is, we know what time it is, and we know where they are. So meet them where they are. Y'all go.
I'll let Wild go first.
I say I like your ideal. I think that could be a great way to actually engage with the parents and the children and figure out what the issues are and how to come alongside. But also, we could have done that with the kids that were shot last year. We could do that with the 5 surviving kids' families that were shot this year. Like there's a lot of stuff that we could do to go get that. And the reality is, unfortunately, OPHS and the whole apparatus, the whole machine that comes down from city government just hasn't been curious about these issues. They're not curious about why these kids are down there. And like you said, yeah, they should be with their families, but we see that they're not, and so I think that speaks to maybe there are some issues with their families. Maybe they don't have the same families that we had growing up, and which I is very clear. I know I mentored kids. The first formal program that I started in '07. By '08, I was apologizing to my parents because all the stuff that I had complained about them doing, had wished that these parents had done, and I apologize for giving them a hard time. I think when you realize and you end up in these positions and realize that parenting is a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
No matter right or wrong, indifferent, no matter what we want these parents to do, no matter what we want, what our parents did, it is a spectrum. Some people are not mentally capable of doing the jobs that some of our parents did. And economically, I can guarantee you there's a lot of them that are not economically capable of doing it. So we have not. We always like to discuss just the parents, and we get all these the students, and then we blame the parents. But we get these forums together, and then we get the kids to talk. We don't listen to them, and we don't never talk to the parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that it's not. And I've said this. I said this on my live. My parents, we weren't rich. I mean, there was times when I remember my mom, us being at the WIC office. I remember food stamps. I remember free and reduced lunch at different times, and sometimes none of that. But my parents had both of their parents for a long time, and they used to talk all this smack about every other parent down there and that was acting up and everything else. But we had a lot of support, and I don't think everybody else has that. And I think we need to take the time to talk to parents and figure out why this is happening. Whether we need, maybe it's not that we just need a program for kids. Maybe we need some sort of support group or some sort of program for parents, because I don't believe that any of these parents are thrilled about their kids having gunshot wounds or laying dead on the floor on the ground. They might be reckless by our standards or neglectful even, but I don't believe any of them didn't care.
Greg, what you think?
Well, I had a conversation with someone who is involved with, I guess, crime prevention,
Mm-hmm.
and from a operations perspective or logistics perspective as well. I think that when you sign up for the job, then you have to realize that the job is not it's not based on just regular hours.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what we've done in our government, even with the MCAT thing, we've tried to make it normal. And the thing about crime is, it's like you can't just look at this from a normal perspective. It's why it's called crime. And I think that the Office of Public Health and Safety, I think the mayor, I think all involved need to look and say, what I said to this person, I said, because they were like, well, everybody's at home with their family. I said, you should have gave them Monday off.
Mm.
Because
Knowing what would happen.
but it's a fact that it was downtown Indianapolis had hundreds of thousands of people. So at the point of being crime prevention or violence interrupters, then that means you're there to interrupt what could possibly be. They're basically city insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Your violence insurance. So at some point you're there just in case. So why not have that mentality to tell violence interrupters, hey, downtown gonna be popping at this time, so this is the shift.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to be there. Do you want to get paid or not? That's the call. I think the other thing is this. I agree with Wild when I look and I say, we don't know the conditions of the parents, but I will say this. From the Black community, the turn up is real. And when we realize that, you may see a lot of kids downtown, their mama might be down the street.
Mm-hmm.
They might be in the club. They might get dropped off before mama go out and be like, I'm gonna pick you up when I'm done. I know that exists. So when it's all said and done, it's like when we ask where the parents are, and I will say this, real talk that we really not thinking about, but I posted this the other day. When we realize that 9,000 black men, when we realize that 9,000 black men a year are being murdered, and you take from what did I put out there? Wow, from it was like 99. It was like some crazy 5 years from
Oh
2000
man.
from 99 to 23 or something like that, and it's been almost 50,000 black men murdered. Then you know where some fathers are. And when I look at this, I'm like, we have to really start addressing what's going on in our community while people are not there. It's not abandonment, it's death. And so for us, I want us to really start looking at everything and finding, the problems and say why people are missing, what's happening with mama, what's wrong with her mind. When you talk about the mother who lost 3 of her 4 sons in the streets, it's like something's going on in that household that needs to be addressed because these kids are running amok. And so I
Mhm.
just really want us to take a better or more holistic approach. But I will say this, everybody who's getting money that has something to do with crime prevention should be involved in policing downtown from the perspective of saying at least walk and take shifts. I'm with that 100.
What do you say? So you have them downtown
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday.
Hmm.
Well, then they'll say, well, we don't necessarily have the authority
You don't.
to send these kids over here.
Mm-mm.
So now you got to have somebody with authority, and that's police.
Mhm.
And then you have people saying, well, do we want more police
No.
to be involved in this? The alternative is they will be involved.
They're going to be involved regardless.
Correct.
I mean, at the end of the day, IMPD is going to be involved regardless. I think that there's some governance. I think there's checks and balances to take place because, yes, you're going to guide them to a place and be like, hey, y'all, it's time to wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you're going to have some problems with it. But at the end of the day, it's like all you can do is what you can do. At least try. One of the other alternatives is this. Send those patrol cars. We know, Wildstyle, if you jaywalking there, get on the horn and say, get back on the curb. So why not ride through downtown when it's said time and say, hey,
Right.
anybody down here under this age needs to go home, and make that standard. It's like the bell. When the bell rings at school, you know it's time to go to class or whatever, leave class and go to class or whatever. Make that normal. And then at that point, it's like not adhering to it may cause a little ruckus, but at the same time, you gotta do everything you can do to make this happen.
And I
go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna say I think all those are solutions, and I think you don't need any special authority to go talk to another human being. Like like a lot of the stuff that these kids are doing, some of them need to just to be separated and go think about it before they go do something stupid. And another thing is, even with all of this, understand that this is a temporary solution. These teens will eventually find somewhere else to go because we do not have much of anything for them. And I've been in the city my entire life, and I remember there was a time when you had all these different actually sanctioned parties where the kids might be in there dancing a little rougher than what we want, but they went through a check. Like they couldn't come in there with guns. It was hard to sneak anything in, and you had parties. You had like kind of youth nightclub sort of things, and you had the rink. You had 2 rinks that had hundreds. We talking about hundreds of people downtown. You had 2 rinks that had hundreds of teens at them at the same time on Friday and Saturday nights, and we don't have hardly any of that. Like the IPD before IMPD and the city administrations made sure that they scared all these establishments or just plain shut the other ones down to where they can't do that because kids do fight. It's always been a thing. I understand we need to try to strive ahead of that, but kids are gonna fight, and I look at, well, now that we shut it all down and they all went to the Circle Center Mall, now that's shut down and now they out on the streets. things have not gotten better. We haven't ended up with less dead kids. We've just ended up with maybe less kids that got punched in the mouth. I
I
would take that one.
I think that, now, Wild, I think that when I look at it, I'm like, we can put them in places. They could be in the rink, they could be in the under 21, but I think that when it's all said and done, I think that TLC or Radio One has a social responsibility. I think that television has a social responsibility because I think the poison is what I think that we're not looking at the digestive system of the brain, and we're not looking at saying what is being fed to our children. By the time, if I look right now, by the time a child is 12, they have heard enough killing in music to say that that is conflict resolution.
Mhm.
And I think that there's no PSAs, there's nothing that says what you're listening to is drama and blah blah blah, but this is not reality. And we need to make sure that we're doing something to train the mind to say that murder ain't conflict resolution. Carrying guns is not conflict resolution. We need to start taking all angles. And I think that when we stop looking at money and saying, man, I do have a responsibility as Radio One. Man, I do have a responsibility as a television network to make sure that we are promoting anti-violence and making sure that people get home safe. If you want your downtown to be safe, do something about it and stop just watching. That's how I feel.
And
But I also would say, I knew one of the teens down there that got killed, and I can say that from what I understood of his reality, that was his reality. I met him at 11 or 12 years old, and what he said to me in a matter of fact way led me to believe that he hadn't gotten to be a child already. And I know my neighborhood. There's a lot of stuff that goes on here, and that's not everybody's experience, but it certainly
I think
is some of their
I
experiences.
think a lot of these kids die being somebody else. I think we've done such a good job of creating more Tupac Shakurs. And when it's all said and done, we look and we take a dude who was a poet, who was a ballet dancer, who was an actor, and then we let him play thug until he got killed. And then we want to still hold him in high regard for what he could have been as opposed to what he was. And I think that what we do is we look and now we celebrate him in his demise,
Mhm.
but he never died being him. And I think so many children right now are being something other than them because we glorify gangsterism. We glorify Tupac. We don't look and say, that was a fool. With all this talent, with all this stuff you had, you would rather join a gang and be gang affiliated, speaking on death, speaking on killing others, and we still hold that in high regard. And then we say, why are our kids dying? Why is King Von dying? Why are all these young rappers dying? Simply because gangsterism is what's called real in our community, and adults are promoting it. So if adults hold gangsterism in high regard, then how the heck do you think you're not going to get a child to hold gangsterism in high regard when their parents are? So there's another level of responsibility that we're forgetting. We have to say, dude, don't listen to that nonsense. That's not good, instead of us promoting it. I'm over us promoting gangsterism. I'm tired of hearing about Ghost and Tariq. I'm tired of hearing about BMF. I'm tired of BMF being called legends to our children, and then we wonder why they emulate. You're supposed to emulate legends. And if we call dope dealers and killers legends, then why the heck do you think this child is not going to act in that way? That's you telling them that it's good, and then trying to say in the same breath, I'm trying to stop crime. You're creating the criminal.
You know what? And when you were talking before, I was thinking, video games, rap, the stuff you were saying. I'm one of the biggest Grand Theft Auto fans out there.
Mm-hmm.
Started playing 3, then Vice City, San
Sure.
Andreas. We all still playing 5. But I remember being told when I started, and I started playing that joint probably 4th or 5th grade.
Yeah.
Now this is just a video game, right? It's a difference.
Yeah.
Like what you do in the video game, you do not. That's not real life.
It's real.
So that part made sense. But what I had never thought about is what you just said when you talked about BMF, because I watched that show.
Sure.
And Lamar just won't die.
Lamar just won't die.
But the difference with that show is that is based on a true story.
Facts.
So what I was told was what you're playing is not real life.
Sure.
But it is real life.
But we're watching now that we're watching BMF, that is real life.
It's real.
To your point, we're glorifying
gangsterism.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We glorify gangsterism at all levels, including crime prevention. The way it's been run. We've purposely picked people that we thought that told the best stories. Maybe not, they didn't have the best story, but they told the best stories about gangsterism. I'm at 33rd and Clifton right now. This is where I've been living.
I thought that was Indiana Avenue.
No, well, that physically. And the reality is, I agree with definitely what Greg is saying about the gangsterism, but I would also push back and say that we learning enough of that from each other. When I look out, I can go on a bike ride or a walk right now, and I don't know, any given weekend, and it will be somebody, just a proud father cooking, manning the grill, and 6 feet from the door, and he's got a gun on his hip. We've raised these kids, and people don't want to talk about that because we love our guns more than God. But we don't discuss about how just our mentality as a culture. You got men and women carrying guns. That is the adult thing to do. If I was a child and I saw this, that this is what I would assume you're supposed to do to be an adult, just like smoking was back years ago. That was the adult thing to do, and that's why kids would end up getting into it. We don't talk about that enough. And when we have guns getting passed around because of our lax gun laws, like Halloween candy, like I wouldn't be surprised if they just start giving out the guns one year with the Halloween candy. It's so bad, but I mean, when you look at that, when you see how many adults can't even man a grill in their own, right off the side of their own porch, without having a gun visibly strapped to their side where I can see it from the street, that lets you know that is also probably a bigger influence on why these kids want to carry a gun than even seeing BMF. Yeah, they're seeing their uncle, they're seeing their daddy, their mama's friends, their big cousins, their big brothers do this. And I'm not saying that these people are bad, but guns in the hands of teenagers, we know that they're impulsive. And unfortunately,
I think your point comes back together to where I was saying, I was taught young that this isn't real life. Both what you're seeing on TV and what you're seeing on the back porch is real life. So maybe the message from 2004, whenever that was, is not the same message that works in 2025. So how do we have that conversation? Because it's hard to say that BMF isn't real life when, as you just said, Wildstyle, Uncle is on the porch just chilling and he's got a gun on him.
Yeah. I think the flip side of it, I know the real Freeway Rick Ross. He says, Greg, everybody asked me about the drugs. Nobody asked me about the 25 years. And when it's all said and done, it's like we have to present consequence. We have to look and say, yeah, I know that it looks glamorous, but the real thing is Big Meech did 20.
Mm-hmm.
The real thing is Big Meech been shot. The real thing is T got shot in his eyes bad. The reality of it all is it's a life that, the possibility of dying is great, and the possibility of it's a 50-50. It's a prison or death thing. And I think that we have to really put it out there on the consequences of this. And until we start really preaching consequence, I don't think that we preach glamour. I think Wildstyle, we can talk about this. You can too. I'm probably the older person on here.
Mm-hmm.
We did a poor job of saying what the hood was. It wasn't grimy. It was just we were poor. But at the same time, we took care of everything. And now they think that it's about being grimy because we was like, nah, what we said was rough was the fact that we had poverty. We had poverty, but we had pride in poverty. And so all of a sudden our kids are like, I want to live in that thing you call the hood. And what it looks like today ain't what it was then. People still cut grass. People still took care of each other, the whole nine. Yes, you had your bad seeds, but that wasn't really what it was. I remember how Riverside used to look. My Uncle Art used to live on Eugene. So when I used to come over there, I'd be like, man, this is a cool neighborhood growing up, you know? But now you see it's totally different because we glamorized it and they see it today and they think that's what it is. It wasn't about that. So we have to do a better job in our messaging to make sure these kids understand what it really is as opposed to, because we glamorize a lot of things but not give the real details of what it is.
Mm-hmm. All right, y'all, we got to take a pause. Let this one go to commercial break and then come back with more of Fox 59 tonight where we continue this conversation. I think we need to get into, you might have raised some eyebrows when you said, what gangsterism in crime prevention? Aren't those opposites? We might touch on a little bit of that. That one gets. We've talked about it before, Greg. Though we've talked about it. That was a little sensitive, though. All right, we'll be right back. More Fox 59 tonight coming up.